Welcome back everyone to the Libgdx development tutorials. In today's video we'll be talking about the 2D animation. Libgdx 2D animation is actually very easy to understand. As you can see here, here's a page going over a brief summary of it. I will have a link in the description towards this page, but it actually only requires a little bit of code. And alright, here we are in IntelliJ. You can see I already set up a little example so we can understand. So if we go down to where it says animation and with the middle mouse button click on this, we can see that there are two parameters that we are using for the first constructor, and that is the frame duration and the keyframes. So the frame duration is actually the frames that you're putting in. So in our case, we put in 10 frames per second. And then the keyframes is actually the array that holds the frame of the animation. Now if we scroll down towards the third constructor, we can see that there is a T, which you can pass in as objects for themselves for each frame. That could be either texture or texture region or atlas region. Now if we look back to the create method and we see the texture atlas, we see that we are getting a internal atlas, which is in our case the fire.atlas, and then we use the atlas object to pass in a array called find regions, and when we use the name fire for this. So what this means is that we are actually using the name of the texture, but of course each texture with the same name is not the same. So we actually defined in the atlas by index. As you can see here, it's defined in different index order. So how do we generate a file like this? Well, you guys can use a tool called the Gdx Texture Packer, and I will have a link in the description for a download for this. And what this does is that you can be able to manage your texture atlas very easy, and you can export with different settings for your application. Now if we go back to the animation object, we see that we use a method called setPlayMode. Now this, we set it to loop, so we want our animation to loop. But if you click here, there is a few different types that you can set for your animation desire. But in our case, we're going to use the loop. And then we create a new sprite. We get the first frame by using the get keyframe. So we take a look at this method. We can see that the state time is the time on which you get the new keyframe or the keyframe index. And then you can also get the index by using the state time if you would like to get the frame index of the state of time. So we get the first frame and then we create a new sprite with it. Scrolling down to the render method, we update the state with the delta time, because this is very good that we update the state, and then we get the keyframe by using the time that was updated, and then we set looping to true because we want our animations to be looping. And then we render the fire using the batch begin and batch end, and then we also make sure you set the projection matrix to be camera.projection. Alright, if you run the program, your result will look like this. As you can see, the fire is actually moving because we have animated our sprite. And this is actually pretty cool because you can choose whatever animation, whether for UI or anything that is 2D of your desire. One last thing before we go, when creating a atlas for the Gdx Texture Packer, make sure you use indices so that we can be able to read the index of the frame animation. So make sure you set that to use indices in the export settings. Alright everyone, that wraps up everything in today's video. I will have the link in the description to the repository if you guys would like to check out this class. I also do recommend that you check out the Libgdx docs for more information, because you can do a lot of cool things with the 2D animation. I also will have a video going later in depth about the Gdx Texture Packer software, on how to install that, and as well on how to export assets with different settings. Alright everyone, have a good one.